Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So, Boise State played against Utah State University and they won. Utah State and Boise, they both have forfeited against SJSU in the past. And we know that there's a lawsuit going on at the moment. 12 plaintiffs from around 4 different schools and including Melissa Batie-Smoose, they are suing the Mountain West Conference for allowing a team with a male player to participate. And unfortunately, the judge didn't grant their injunction to disqualify SJSU from competing in the Mountain West Tournament and to readjust the records so that the forfeits wouldn't be counted as losses. So that was a huge disappointment, but the case still continues. The judge still has to decide whether their First Amendment rights were infringed upon and the Title IX violation. So let's hope for a better outcome when it comes to those aspects of the case. Now, with disappointments, there can still be some victories that come along. And yesterday, Boise State, who won against Utah State.
And Boise State. And an ace on match point for Boise State as the Broncos hang on in the fourth set to take down number 3 seed Utah State 3-1.
Boise State were due to play SJSU in the semi-finals. We were wondering, what would the winning team do when it comes to going on to compete against SJSU? They confirmed that they are forfeiting once again. So this could very well end their season. But despite that, they have chosen to forfeit. They have chosen to not play a team that has a male player. So this is wonderful news. I couldn't be more proud. Everybody is so proud of these girls. This is a very selfless act because they could have gone on to play. They are doing very well in the tournament. They could have gone on to play, gone on to achieve all of these accomplishments, but thrown women's sports under the bus. And they chose not to do that. They chose to put the interests of other women, other female athletes who come in after them first. They chose to put their interests first. Because if we're going to go down this path where we're competing against male players, there is no women's sports. Women's sports are for females only. So in a statement on their website, they said the following. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold. They said the decision to not continue to play in the 2024 Mountain West Volleyball Championship Tournament was not an easy one. Our team overcame forfeitures to earn a spot in the tournament field and fought for the win over Utah State in the first round on Wednesday. They should not have to forgo this opportunity while waiting for a more thoughtful and better system that serves all athletes. So with this statement, they did go a little bit further into mentioning why they forfeited. And they're right, they have forfeited the most out of all the teams. They overcame 2 forfeitures to even get to where they were in the first place. Despite those forfeitures, they still progressed to the semi-finals of the Mountain West Tournament. So they have had to work much harder than SJSU to get to where they are, including overcoming having to forfeit. But yet they're putting that all aside to protect the integrity of women's sports, to protect the female athletes who are going to come after them. Because I'm sure many young girls who want to get into volleyball do not want to play against male players. And as they said, they shouldn't have to do this in the first place. But unfortunately, female athletes are being placed in impossible situations. Compete against males or you can't participate. Unfortunately, female athletes are the ones being excluded in their own sports. But this is worth doing. The forfeiting is worth it because in the long run, this is what is going to turn things around. Ultimately, I'm sure these girls would rather be known for being an integral part of saving women's sports than for winning a tournament. I'm sure they would want their names, their faces to be known for doing what needed to be done to bring women's sports back to where it should be. With all of the challenges that women's sports in general faces, having to compete against male athletes certainly shouldn't be one of them. And until that is dealt with, women's sports isn't going to progress any further. That's just fact. So it was initially reported that Boise State defeats Utah State in 4 sets, and they must now decide whether to play against San Jose State and transgender Blaire Fleming in the semi-final on Friday, or forfeit and end their season in hopes of reaching the NCAA Tournament. And Riley Gaines said, these girls are faced with an impossible choice. 1. Forfeit and end their season prematurely. 2. Compete against a team with a man. History will not look kindly on the adults who not only failed these girls, but betrayed them. She's absolutely right there. And after the forfeit was announced, she said, "If you weren't an athlete, you probably don't understand how difficult this decision is." They ended their season prematurely for going a shot at the NCAA Tournament, the pinnacle of their sport. Yet, they stood firm against the NCAA, the Mountain West, their institution, the government, etc. The whole reason for being at the school that they're at, for getting a scholarship, for training, working hard, focusing on volleyball, was to reach the NCAA tournament. And they've given that up because they weren't really given great options as female athletes. Sure, you can participate, but you must be willing to compete against a team with a male athlete. You must be willing to go along with this farce that it's okay for transgender athletes to compete in women's competitions because they've lowered their testosterone, because they officially declare themselves as women. They've been on hormones, so, that makes it fair. You're forced to go along with this farce in order to participate as a female athlete. And the people who put those rules in place, they're the ones who should be ashamed of themselves. They're the ones who are the failures. Because these girls are winners in so many different ways. So I couldn't be more proud of these girls. We feel their pain, knowing what they've given up, but we couldn't be more proud. What they've done is absolutely heroic. It really is. And it sends a clear message. No matter the outcome of this lawsuit, no matter the outcome of the tournament, we know who the true winners are. We know the people who can hold their heads up high. There's going to be those who hang their heads in shame, and there's going to be those who can hold their heads up high and be proud of everything they've achieved, everything they've done, the way they've conducted themselves throughout this whole ordeal. So Riley Gaines confirmed that the girls chose option 1. She said the girls have bigger balls than any of the cowards in the NCAA Mountain West Conference, and likely the man on the SJSU team. At NCAA, when will you listen to women? Very good question, since we're talking about women's sports, since we're talking about women's volleyball. It seems that the NCAA are listening to everybody but the female athletes. They're listening and following the wishes of everyone else but the women. So after the game, after they won their match against Utah State University, their minds still weren't made up, at least not officially.
Talk. They want to go down there and celebrate the victory. Utah State has had our number for 3 years. It's our first win against them. So we're going to let them focus on that, so they will not be available for comment. In relation to Friday, there is nothing to talk about at this point. We have there's no decision has been made. I don't know what's going to go on. I will send out an email to you, which one I think we're playing, but at this point in time, there's nothing more to say. Okay.
Do you think that they're playing?
I don't know what's going to go on. Just say that at this point, there is nothing to say.
Is there going to be a vote?
It's going to be discussed. That's all.
Is it solely a team decision, or is there any external pressures?
So it must have been an agonizing decision. It really must have been for these girls. Their first time actually beating Utah State, as he said there. So again, I want to thank the coaches as well, the school, everybody who has backed these girls, the state governor, and all those who didn't back these girls. Well, you're on the wrong side of history. Riley Gaines herself said January 20th, but not come fast enough. And when that time comes and things begin to change, legislation begins to change, executive orders are signed, you're the ones who are going to look very foolish. The people who called these girls bigots, the people who called these girls hateful and accused them of bullying, all the while being guilty of the very thing that you claim to be against. Apparently, when it's done towards the female athletes, it's okay though. We had Leah Thomas speak out recently to ESPN, trying to gain sympathy from all of this, giving support to the SJSU transgender player, and trying to reinforce the myth that if you lower your testosterone, if you follow all of the requirements, it makes this fair. It makes this legit for a male athlete to compete in a women's competition. Still reinforcing the lie that the only difference between men and women is hormones. So Leah said, My coach and compliance officer helped me compile those and send those off, but it was a lot of paperwork and medical records. And then after the NCAA said I was eligible, I had to continue to submit regular blood work all through my senior season, demonstrating my testosterone levels were under the threshold. And by the way, the threshold is 10 nanomoles. Your testosterone level has to be under 10 nanomoles, way above that of the average female. The average female's testosterone is 2.4 nanomoles. So the NCAA allow male athletes whose testosterone levels are way above the females to play in women's competitions, all while getting a pat on the back for lowering their testosterone to under 10 nanomoles. This is the injustice against women that the NCAA is complicit in. Leah said, "It can be just extremely invasive and dehumanizing." You know what's invasive? Being in the locker room with a 6'4", fully intact male athlete, when you're a female athlete competing in women's sports and you have to change into your swimsuit. Being in the locker room with a man against your will is what's invasive. It can be extremely invasive and dehumanizing. And it's in a way I think very few people ever experience. To have my own personal identity and personhood turned into a culture war talking point just totally takes all my humanity away. It can be very difficult to keep trying to persevere through that. So when it comes down to it, the likes of Leah Thomas and the male athletes who are infringing upon women's sports, many of them think it's solely about them and the NCAA and Mountain West, all of these sporting bodies, the Biden-Harris administration, they reinforce those ideas. No wonder these people think the world revolves around them, and all of the activists seem to only prioritize that which affects the male athlete, the male athlete's wants and desires, all while doing the very thing that they claim to be against towards the women, towards the female athletes, simply because they say no, which they have every right to do. So as difficult as that is to have to submit medical records and all of these things, that must have been very hard for Leah. Bear in mind, there are women competing against male athletes who don't have any requirements, no requirements whatsoever, other than to say they identify as a woman. But think about the female athletes who missed out on medals, who missed out on championships, who missed out on a spot in a particular competition or tournament. And think about the women who are still dealing with the effects of feeling violated by being in the locker room with this person against their will. The female athletes are still dealing with that till today. Even recently they testified in Georgia about what they went through. And I hope there are more lawsuits. I hope these women are given opportunities to pursue justice, be compensated for what they were put through at the hands of these reckless sporting bodies, these reckless schools that went along with this. Why? I do not know. Maybe they were putting their politics before common human decency. Again, well done to the Broncos, well done to the female athletes, and all of the people who have supported them, who have backed them in their decision. We commend them, we are proud of them, and they are going to be known for helping us take back our sports. So thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.